I welcome all the participants who have joined this virtual meeting, or rather, I should say, the virtual training program on practical training. Today's topic is from GST, and we have chosen the GSTR1. We have invited two faculties. One is Dr. Ayush Sharaf, and second one is the Shubham Khaitan. Ayush Sharaf will take us through the theoretical part of the GSTR1, and Shubham Khaitan will take us to the practical part of the GSTR1. With this words, I think by the time all the students are aware that we are organizing this program every Sunday, so please do not wait for the announcement and anything. Just join at 10:30 and you will see that live sub-program is going on. Anyway, emails and SMS are being sent to the students, and you please take advantage of this. Before I invite the speakers, I request Sridhar Mopala, Vice Chairman to the committee, to say a few words. In the meantime, I think Chairman Direct GST Committee, GST and Indirect Tax Committee, Rajendra Kumarji is joining us. Then we will hear him also. So over to Sridhar Mopala.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Chairman, sir. And our speakers for the day, Mr. Shubham and Mr. Ayush, and our colleagues in the committee, Fenil Shah and other members, and the team of Board of Studies, and also the students who have joined the seminar. I welcome you all to the third week of a practical training, because we are conducting a series of events. The object of this seminar is to about not only theoretical knowledge, a student should know about, as we know that we are shifting from complete the page system to a web-based system. The students undergoing an articleship should have an equal knowledge which they can apply in their articleship and learn the subject properly. So as a part of it, every week we are coming out with the series, and the response for the week by week is really increasing. I really appreciate the speakers, because I know that Sunday is one day what they get off. In spite of that, they came forward to share their knowledge and expertise with the students. So I request every student to take the advantage of it. And as Chairman Sir rightly said, you need not wait for the next week program. It's a by default 10:30 every Sunday. On each practical issues we are coming out. So today, again, we have a GST. First week we had on it with regard to the registrations and preliminary thing. And today, an extension part of it, the third week is what we are going. And our senior council colleague, Mr. Rajendra Kumar, who is an Indirect Taxes Committee Chairman and also an expert in the indirect taxes, will also be joining us shortly and will be sharing his expertise. So I request every student to spread the word of this practical training on every Sunday at 10:30 among your friend circles and make best use of it. And also you can come out with your queries and all in the form of the messages. So we'll try to address as much as possible, either through the webinar itself, or if not, we'll get back to you either on mail or the other modes of communication. So thank you, sir. And once again, I thank both the speakers for really taking out your time and being a part of this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sridhar Bhai. And today's, let me announce, Fenil Shah is past chairman of Ahmedabad branch. He is moderating the session today. So I thought we have a moderator also for every program.
Yes. That's a good idea.
Because it is a regular program, and every week we have this program. So yes, one moderator will help us by both the speaker to coordinate.
Welcome, Fenil.
Second thing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fenil, for joining. And RK sir is joining just now, and office to call him once again. Okay. I am just to inform all the participants that next week we will have program on income tax. Income tax last week, first program was on PAN number. Next program we are going to use of the portal, not going to discuss the PAN, filing of returns. We are going to discuss what are the informations can be collected from the income tax portal, the AIS or EIS or the 26AS, and your past return filed, how your refund has been, can be seen whether refund has been processed, or how to update bank account number on the portal. The basic data is on the portal, how to collect them and what are the uses of that. So before preparation of the return, I think it is required. So all the students be ready for the income tax portal next time, and little bit, if required, we will touch the 10 number. So our chairman, GST and Indirect Tax Committee, my good friend from Chennai, He's joined us. So direct to you, sir. Today's we have program on GSTR 1. We have invited Dr. Ayush Saraf, CA Dr. Ayush Saraf from Guwahati, and the Subham Khatan, CA Subham Khatan is from Calcutta. Both will take us to the session, and Penilsa is coordinating the session. Over to you, RK sir.
Thank you, Sushil ji, and my mentor in the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, my chairman, I should always say, CA Sushil Kumar ji Goyal, the newly elected Central Council member, and very fresh and young blood from the city of Nawab, city of Hyderabad, Sridhar Mupala sir, and two great faculties, Shubham Khaitan ji, whom I know very well. He has been a great source of strength and support to the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee in particular, I must say. And I must also thank now Sushil ji Goyal for introducing me to Shubham Khaitan ji. In fact, thank you so much, sir. Dr. Ayush Saraf sir, I have not known you personally, but then I have heard about you also. Thank you for this particular program that you're coming. And we have member board of studies here, CA Fenil Shah, and all many other. Alok is there, Vidhi is there. I think one more technical person, Ayaz also is there. In fact, when Sushil ji called me today this morning that I should come, he is one person to whom I'll never say no. It is not that I will say no to Sridhar ji, but then Sushil sir is one person to whom I have never told no, because he has been my first chairman. I have always learned that to your chairman you should never say no. You should, if you want to disagree, you should discuss with him, but never say no to your chairman. That is how I have been taught also, and that I follow till today. In fact, the passion with which Sushil ji has on GST, in fact, it is so magnetic that I would say that any person who comes in contact with him immediately gets the flavor of the goods and services tax. And he being the chairman of the Board of Studies operations, is a greatest asset to all the student community, because he believes in learning, he believes in educating, and he believes in ensuring that the students get the best from out of the institute. And with Sridhar sir, who is a well-known faculty, who is an institution by himself, I must say, I must use that word, institution by himself, being the vice chairman of this particular BOS operations, is like icing on the cake. I must say it's like icing on the cake. He has been a great source of strength and support to the council from the time he joined the council. The goods and services tax, basically the topic of discussion today, GSTR 1 and so on. In fact, this is the key, I must say. In fact, when some people come and say, what is this, chartered accountants are only doing compliance related work. But unlike income tax, where your return gets filed last, the return gets filed last, you do all the homework, etc. Here, from the time your return gets filed, everything starts. So it is the beginning. All the beginnings in relation to goods and services tax, whether you say payment of tax, input tax credits, any notices that may come in on a future date, etc., all commences from your GSTR 1. All commences from your compliance practices. So compliance practice is one of the very, very important areas of practice. Now, it is like this. In one of the inquiries which the GST department was conducting, they went to an assessee's place. They just first asked him, whom you are consulting? They told the name of X person. Then immediately the department said, that means we have no work to do here. That means we have no work to do here. That is because the amount of professional expertise that concerned person would have put into that work must have been so perfect that the department will have absolutely nil work to do even when they go on an inquiry or on a search to any GST related assessment. So this particular area that the faculties are going to discuss today, this particular compliance aspect the faculties are going to discuss today, Ayush Saraf and Shubham Khaitan ji, I must say is extremely important, and I must commend the BOS operations for this great amount of thinking process that they have had on organizing this particular event, this particular program. I'm confident that under the leadership of Sushilji and under the able eyes of Sridhar Mupalaji, the programs and the student community will enormously benefit from the programs organized by the BOS operations. I commend them and I also congratulate them for whatever has been done today by this particular committee. And I once again thank Sushilji for inviting me and for giving me this honor of addressing all of you. Wishing you all the best for your future, for your exams, and above all, for your life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. I call him RK as a chairman always because he is chairman to my GST committee. And his word will not only benefit the students who have listened to him, also we organizer also getting benefited by words that how to move ahead and go ahead. So thank you, RK Bhai, once again. And over to Fenil Saab. Before that, let me inform it is 1100 plus participants still joined so far. And we are expecting it is catching the news is getting spread among the students and more students are taking benefit of it. Those who have not joined, for their informations, you may spread it that this entire recorded video will be available on the YouTube channel of the Board of Studies. But it is always to attend the program when it is live. It is have double the benefit, no doubt on this. Fenil Saab.
Thank you, sir. So on behalf of the Skills Enrichment Board of Studies Operations, I welcome the esteemed speakers of the day, CA Dr. Ayush Sharafji, CA Shubham Khaitanji. Very wholehearted and open-hearted always for students. The Board of Studies Operations, that is SSAB, chaired by CCM CA Sushil Kumar Goyalji, the chairman of this committee, co-chaired by Vice Chairman C.S. Sridhar Mupalaji. Also welcoming Shri Rajendra Kumar PG, the Chairman of GST Committee, the staff members of the Board of Studies Operations, dear students and staff members. Now, before I take the opportunity to introduce the esteemed speakers of today, I'll just take half a minute to tell you that what's the intention, why Sushil sir and Sridhar sir and the whole Board of Studies has organized this particular session for you is that we all need to acknowledge that the changes in statute are becoming day in and day out. The increasing need of clients and the increasing compliances. In this era, yes, you are getting the theoretical knowledge in the Board of Studies coaching classes. You are self-study. But apart from that, you get practical approach in your offices when you do your articleship. But the main objective behind organizing this webinar series every Sunday, as Sushil sir told, is with the three objects. First is to educate you. Second is to support you. And the third is we aim at bringing the standardization in any approach we take toward the practical aspects. With this aim, friends, we are here with this particular first day, and we sincerely request you that from next time, whenever you get any kind of poster, any kind of SMS, it's your duty to spread it to other students so that today you are taking the benefit. The next Sunday, all the other students take the benefit of the same. So again, thank you all for joining this particular session, and would request you to keep on taking the notes of the same. And anytime you have doubts, you can write it in the chat box so that at the end of this session, we will ask to the respected faculty and the faculty will solve your doubts also. Now I'm taking the privilege to introduce the first learned esteemed speaker of the day, CA Dr. Ayush Sharafji. By educational qualification, he is BCom, FCA, CS, LLB, PhD, and DISA by ICI. I think so. None of the qualification which generally a chartered accountant would aim at or would be in the bucket list is not done by Sharaf sir. The main important is he's a practicing chartered accountant in matters of GST, audit, and income tax. Apart from this, he has done his doctorate and submitted his thesis on the impact of implementation of Ind AS in financial statement of selected Nifty 50 companies. He also contributes various articles. He is also a regular speaker at various forums, mainly specializing and speaking in GST law. He is also empaneled faculty in Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI. Presently, he is Vice Chairman of Guwahati branch of ICAI. He has been a guest faculty at n number of educational institutes, and the list is going on, but not reading everything because it's better to hear from him and to know more about him. So with this brief words about Ayush Sharaf sir, I welcome you to this particular session today to address the students, and thank you for joining. Over to Ayush Sharaf sir.
Thank you so much, Fenilji. At the very outset, I would like to congratulate the Board of Studies and our chairman, sir, Sushil sir, because the initiative which he has taken, that will go a long way in enhancing the skill of the students, skill sets of the students, and also the members can participate in these types of programs, because these types of micro issues are not taken care of in any seminars, in any particular seminars of members. So, sir, these types of programs will go a long way in enabling our students and even our members. Now, coming straight to the topic, because our students might have been waiting for us. Let me share the screen. Okay, first of all, let us understand what is GSTR 1. GSTR 1 is a return in which we mention or in which we fill up the details regarding our sales. Okay, now how GSTR 1 came into being, what is the history behind it? Let us first understand that one. See, I have not prepared any formal presentation for that. We will be discussing issues, and we shall be, and finally, if possible, can we take queries in middle of the presentation also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'll be happy if we take on questions in the middle of the session so that the queries get cleared then and there. Okay.
Sure.
So the history is Section 37 of the CGST Act mentions that a return of outward supplies shall be filed by every registered person. That means whatever sales we make, whatever sales a registered person makes, he has to mention or he has to intimate the department of all those sales in his GSTR 1 under Section 37. Now there is Section 38, which says that return of inward supplies is to be filed. That is GSTR 2. And then there is Section 39, which says that a consolidated return containing all inward and outward details has to be filed in GSTR 3. So this was the mechanism, or this was the chain in which returns were to be filed under the GST regime. Immediately on filing GSTR 1, the details of outward supplies which the supplier furnishes gets auto-populated in GSTR 2A of the buyer. The buyer can check the details of his purchases from his GSTR 2A, and if he has any objections to the same, he can always decline that purchase in his GSTR 2 and file the GSTR 2. In addition, if he has any additional purchases which he has purchased, but they have not come in GSTR 2A, the original proposition was that the registered person shall have the opportunity to furnish those details in his GSTR 2, which shall again be sent to the supplier and he can accept or reject the same. And then on the basis of these two returns, GSTR 3 shall be filed. This functionality was present in the first month of GST implementation, that is July 2017. However, subsequent to that month, since a lot of the law was new and there were lots of problems and hiccups in the law, so the government temporarily, for the time being, suspended GSTR 2 and GSTR 3 and introduced a summary return, GSTR 3B. So effectively, there were only two returns, that is GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B. Initially, GSTR 3B was only temporary in nature. That is, it was initially for some months, then it was extended till the year end. And later on, when the government realized that no, 2 and 3 might not be that viable, considering the conditions in our country and the type of dealers, type of business culture in our country, so the government made GSTR 1 and 3B permanent. So now let us see how GSTR 1 looks like. Yes. So this is the format of GSTR 1. The year is there, period is there, GSTN number is there, legal name of the registered person is there, trade name is there, ARN is there. ARN is generated only after the return is filed. Okay, and then it gets printed in this GSTR1. So this is a filed form. Now, these are the various tables of this form. Table 4, table 5, table 9. We shall be discussing all these theoretical, all these tables in a theoretical manner, because practical aspect shall be taken care of by Shubhamji. So we shall discuss what is there in the table, how should we fill them, what is the relevance of each table, and what are the mistakes normally committed in each table. So this is the format of GSTR1. Please note, below every page, this IP address is mentioned. That means the IP address from which the return is filed is always listed in this GSTR1. So we should always be careful, and we should understand what we are filing and for whom we are filing, because the data can always be traced. So now let us go through in details. Yes. So what happens? First of all, let me explain the relevance of GSTR1. When we file GSTR1, the outward supplies which we have reported under GSTR1, that gets auto-populated in GSTR2A of the buyer. That means, suppose A has sold goods to B. A will file his GSTR1, and in GSTR1 of A will report that I have sold goods worth ₹100 to B. Now when B will check his GSTR2A, he will find that A has reported ₹100 of purchases from him. So the buyer and the supplier both are linked with GSTR1, because if Mr. A makes any delay or mistake in filing his GSTR1, Mr. B has to suffer. So we have to be careful. We have always to be careful as to what we are filing, and we commit least of mistakes, because GSTR1 once filed cannot be revised. Though there is amendment feature, but the same return cannot be revised. Further, the outward supplies, the value of outward supplies and tax, which we declare in our GSTR1, that gets auto-populated in your GSTR3B in table 3.1. So whatever sale you are declaring in GSTR1, that gets auto-populated in GSTR3B, through which your tax is paid. Now, the field there is editable. The figures which are auto-populated in 3B, you can edit it. But please mind, if you edit it, if there is a difference of even 1 paisa, the tile will get red in color. And once it is red in color, a red flag report is generated in the system, and your jurisdictional AO will be intimated of the same. And this might cause initiation of any proceedings. So to the extent possible, there should not be any variation in your GSTR3B and GSTR1 liability and output data. Okay, so this was the basic concept behind GSTR1 and why GSTR1 is required and why should we be extra careful in filing our GSTR1. Now let us understand how GSTR1 works. Yes. Every registered person shall have his login ID and password. So simple, he has to do gst.gov.in. In this website, we have to log in using our credentials, login credentials, and under the services section, we have return dashboard. We click on return dashboard, and then this page pops up. Okay, you have to select the financial year. You have to select the quarter 1, 2, 3, 4. Since it is 2022-23, it's only quarter 1, and then the period. That means the month. You have to click the search button and then this comes up. Okay, I have selected May month. So GSTR 3B has not been populated yet. So we have GSTR 1, which is already populated. And the date of filing is shown as 11/6/2022. Yes. So once we click into this GSTR 1, we have two options: prepare online, prepare offline. These things will be taken care of by Shubhamji, so I will not intrude into this. We simply click on this GSTR 1 table and then we come into this page. Please see, these figures are auto-populated from the registration data of the taxpayer. These are the fields which are to be newly entered by us. Okay, we shall discuss each and every table now. Now this is the table. These are the tables for amendment. Like I said that GSTR 1 return cannot be revised. However, there is amendment provision and return can be amended, but the same return cannot be revised. So we shall discuss this one also. Yes, sir. Now, let us come to the first table here. This one, 4A, 4B, 6B, 6C. B2B supply, SEZ, DE means deemed export invoices. Okay. Once we click into this, we land into this page. Now there are multiple options in this one. Deemed exports, if your supply is a deemed export, you click in here. If you are a GTA operator, goods transport operator, then you have to click on this one, the supply attract reverse charge. That means that I am reporting this outward supply to in my GSTR 1, but in this supply I am not liable to pay tax. The recipient of my service will be liable to pay tax and the reverse charge. So once this is selected, the GSTR 2A of the recipient, in that one, this point will be mentioned that it is liable for reverse charge. So it can always be traced. Now, once we fill up this GST number, recipient name will be auto-populated. Name as in master, this we'll discuss in the later stage as to what is the master in GSTR 1. So for the time being, we'll understand that we have to fill up the GST number. The recipient name will be auto-populated. Invoice number, we have to fill in. Invoice number has to be unique. Invoice date has to be filled in. Invoice value has to be filled in, and invoice value will be the gross amount. That means including taxes and every other figure. That means the gross amount which is payable under the as per the invoice. Place of supply, whatever might be the state, you have to mention that. Yes. Once we fill up the GST number, immediately when we fill up the GST number, this field also gets auto-populated in the portal. That means below this page, this portion also gets auto-populated, wherein we have to give rate-wise detail of the supply. That means if the invoice was for 5% supply, we have to put the outward supply value in this tile. If the invoice was for 12% supply, then we have to put it under this tile. If it is mixed, then we have to put up mixed. Suppose 100 is for 5%, we have to put 100 here. The tax amount will be auto-calculated. If it is for 12%, we have to write 100 rupees here. 6 rupees will be auto-populated here. Or if it is a IGST supply, 12 rupees will be auto-populated in your IGST value. Okay. So this is the basic structure of your B2B supply, of how to report the B2B supply. Now, In case of large suppliers, that means to whom e-invoicing applies, to whom the provisions of e-invoicing are applicable, in those particular cases, these fields will be auto-populated. In fact, the entire field will be filled up because the GSTR1 will fetch the data from e-invoicing data. As soon as the e-invoice is generated, the GSTIN will fetch the details of the e-invoice data into the GSTR1. And all these details are automatically filled in. Now you can check the data. If you agree with the data, you can keep it. Suppose you have committed some mistake in your e-invoice data. Suppose you have declared your value wrongly. So what can you do? Is it mandatory that you have to take the data as an e-invoice portal? No, it's not mandatory. You can always change the data in your GSTR1 as per your database. However, any difference in GSTR1 and your e-invoice data might call for notices and scrutinies and any other relevant action depending on the severity of the difference. So it's always advisable that there should be no difference between e-invoice data and GSTR1. However, if it is unavoidable, then you can do that. However, it will be better if you intimate your jurisdictional AO regarding the same and the reasons why the difference occurred, so that in case any proceedings are launched at a later stage, you can always defend your case. Okay? We shall discuss this again in the later part. The next time.
Sharaf sir, just to interrupt you.
Sir.
Sir, there are various queries like basic queries. Means I was going through the queries. Students are confused on bit like who should file the GSTR1, when it should be filed. Then one more query is like they want to understand the difference between these B2B, B2C transactions.
Yes.
Also, they want to know the basics like what is input service distributors, what is composition dealers. So like, sir, when I saw the earlier queries, I think so, as our schedule says that first session will be on basics. So they are asking those basic queries. So if you can throw a light on that.
Sure. Yeah. I'll do one thing. I'll go into the next one. I'll go. Give me 1 minute. Yes. So all the queries which the students are posting, I think they will be covered here. Okay. Now, who is required to file GSTR1? Every registered person is required to file GSTR1, other than input service distributor, composition taxpayer, and persons liable to deduct tax under 51 and 52. That means DDOs, departmental officers who deduct TDS and file TDS returns, and input service distributor. I shall explain who is the input service distributor. Okay. So form GSTR1 is to be filed by each and every registered taxpayer who is registered under the provisions of the GST law. So another question, is GSTR1 filing mandatory? Yes, it is mandatory. Even if there is no business activity, you have to file nil return. Even if your GSTR1 is nil, you file it. Otherwise, penal provisions might follow. What are the modes of preparing GSTR1? Online entry, uploading of invoice using offline tool, and using third-party applications. There are many third-party applications which can be used. However, department also gives return offline utility, which is also equally good. And we can use any of the modes. Online return filing is possible only in case of small suppliers, wherein the entries are very less. However, in case of bulky database, I think the second or the third option should be selected. Now, what details have to be furnished in GSTR1? Invoice level details, invoice level details for B2C, B2B. Okay, let me first explain what is B2C and what is B2B. B2B means business to business. That means, suppose I am a registered dealer under the GST law. I am Mr. A. Mr. B is also a registered dealer under GST law. So now if Mr. A supplies goods to Mr. B, both are registered under the GST law, and so this transaction becomes B2B. Am I clear? If a registered person supplies goods or makes outward supplies of goods to another registered person under the GST law, it is termed as a business-to-business transaction, B2B transaction. However, if a registered person makes supplies to unregistered person, if a registered person makes supplies to unregistered person, then the transaction becomes B2C. That means business to consumer. That means the end user has purchased the goods from me. So what is the impact of B2B and B2C? Once I make a B2B transaction, that means business to business transaction. That means if a registered person sells goods to another registered person, in that case, the input is transferred from Mr. A to Mr. B. And Mr. B can utilize that input if available to him, or if not specifically blocked under the GST law. However, in case of B2C transaction, ITC is not available because the person is not even registered, and ITC can be availed only by a registered person. So this is the basic concept of B2B and B2C transaction, and this is the basic utility of making B2B and B2C sales. What type of registered taxpayers are not required to file GST Tier 1? Taxpayers in the composition scheme, there is a separate return for that. Non-resident foreign taxpayers, online information database and access retrieval service providers, ISD, TDS deductors, the DDOs, departmental deducting officers, and e-commerce operators collecting TCS. What are the prerequisites for filing GST Tier 1? Registered taxpayer, he has to be registered under the GST law. He has to have his valid login credentials. Obviously, if he is registered, he will have his login credentials. He should have his DSC, though without DSC also it can be filed with EVC. For which class of taxpayers is DSC mandatory for filing returns? I have a query from what if a person earns his her income from. So I think this is a different.
Sorry to interrupt, Kapilji. It's not a query of GST. That's why I didn't ask.
Yes.
So I'm just scrutinizing. If the query will be related to basics of GST, then only we will post to sir. The next queries we will take later on.
Okay. Fernilji, what were the other queries?
No, yeah, sir, you are going on a right track. Means those queries are being addressed by your speech itself. So I'm not interrupting in between.
Okay.
Yes.
For
sir.
which class of taxpayers DSC is mandatory for filing returns? For companies, public or private, LLPs and foreign LLPs. For these, the digital signatures are mandatory. However, owing to COVID, some relaxations were given in filing use of DSCs, and even EVCs were allowed to be used. And even now, I think the portal is allowing EVCs for the time being. By when do I? That means what is the time period? What is the due date for filing GST Tier 1? GST Tier 1 filing due date is 11th of the succeeding month in case of monthly filers. In case of monthly filers, the due date is 11th of succeeding month, and in case of quarterly filers, it is 13th day of the end of every quarter. That means if for the first quarter, April to June, your due date shall be 13th of July. And for the month of April, the due date shall be 11th of May. However, as and when the need arises, the government extends these due dates. Yes. What does total invoice value column indicate in GSTR 1? That is includes that we have already discussed. It is inclusive of all taxes. Whether there will be any validation on relationship between invoice value and taxable value. That means I've shown you earlier that in the top of the page, we fill up the invoice value. That is the gross value of the invoice. And the bottom part, we fill up the rate-wise details. So will there be any validation? Because there might be some differences between the gross value and the taxable value and the value as filled in the rate-wise details. So there is no validation as such in these details. Can I enter details of goods and services in the, yes, we can always enter details of goods and services in the same invoice. What are B2B supplies? B2B supply refers to transactions between registered taxable entities and persons. We have already discussed. B2C also we have discussed. When are debit notes to be reported in the return? Yes, we shall discuss this one. Debit notes are to be reported in the month. Okay, this is regarding the timeline. However, let me explain you as to when do we file debit notes. Suppose we have made a sale of rupees 100 in April month. In May month, we came to know that the rate, the taxable value should have been 110 instead of rupees 100. So now there is a difference of rupees 10. What we do is, in May month, we issue a debit note to our purchaser, to our customer, intimating him that this is the difference of rupees 10 of my supply which I made you in April, and this is the additional tax which you have to pay. That means 10 rupees, and if it is a 12% item, so 1.2 rupees, 11.2 rupees, we will be issuing him a debit note. And that debit note we have to issue, we have to declare in our GSTR 1. Now there is a similarly, let me also take up credit note. When do we have to issue a credit note? Suppose take a reverse case. I sent you a mail confirming the rate to be 100 rupees. However, in my invoice, I charged 105 rupees. So you informed me that, sir, you had mailed me 100 rupees. Now you are mailing me 105 rupees. You have invoiced me 105 rupees. So what I will do, I will issue a credit note in the month of May, intimating or reducing the invoice value by 5 rupees. And the tax amount will also be reversed by on that 5 rupees. Now there is a common mistake which is committed in filing GSTR 1 returns. See, credit note is also issued in case of purchases by our suppliers. In GSTR 1, we will be reporting debit notes and credit notes only pertaining to our sales, only pertaining to our outward supplies, not pertaining to our purchases. This is a common mistake which is committed by many firms and many registered persons, taxpayers, wherein they report debit or credit notes relating to their purchases in GSTR 1. But sir, GSTR 1 is a return of your outward supply, not return of your inward supply. So any debit credit note relating to your purchases will not come under GSTR 1. Yes. Is shipping bill number mandatory while declaring export invoices in GSTR 1? Sir, shipping bill is very much important. However, it is not a mandatory field in GSTR 1. But in case you are eligible for refund and you don't enter your shipping bill number, your refund might be stuck up because that detail will not be validated from your IceGate portal. So you should be very careful in mentioning your shipping bill number and the date. Suppose in the month when you are filing, you don't have the shipping bill number, it's okay. But in the subsequent month, you should always amend it. How shipping bill can be number can be furnished? Okay, this one you can amend it and you can always furnish it. How do I report supplies to SEZ units and developers? That one you can fill up under the B2B section. There is a specific flag there which I had already shown there. There was a tab, you have to click on that slab and then you can fill up under that tab. Until when changes can be made to the uploaded data, uploaded invoice details? Taxpayers can modify, delete. You can always delete. Suppose you have not filed your return till now. You have uploaded your data using your Tally software or using any other software or using departmental utility. But before filing, you saw that there is a mistake. You can always change it. You can always delete it. However, once you filed it, you cannot change it. Though you can amend it in your subsequent returns, but in that month return, you cannot alter it in any manner. Can there be duplicate invoice series in a particular financial year? Sir, no duplicate invoice series will be allowed. One invoice number is allowed only once in one financial year. Suppose your invoice number is INV-1. Now, if you have already entered this INV-1 in this financial year, if again in subsequent year you use this same number INV-1, the system will show an error and it will not accept this invoice number. So the invoice number under the GST regime has to be unique. Can a registered taxpayer have multiple series of tax invoices? Yes, you can always have. INV-1 is not accepted. But INV 2023-1, that is accepted. So you can have multiple series of tax invoices if it is required. Is there any specified format for invoice number under GST law? So there is no specified format, but the maximum length is 16 characters. Above 16 characters, it is not accepted. So ideally, the invoice number which you generate should not have your invoice number more than 16 characters. However, we normally face a problem, a practical problem, wherein the invoice number is more than 16 characters. So what do we do in that case? We have no other option, but from the last, we can take the last 16 characters. Because we have to report it and we have no other option left in that one. How HSN-wise summary is reported in Form GSTR 1? Sir, HSN-wise summary means every goods or every service has its own HSN code and every service has its own SSE code. So in GSTR 1, whatever outward supplies you have reported in your GSTR 1, you have to bifurcate the outward supply into HSN wise. Suppose you have 4 items. One is soap, one is toothbrush, one is toothpaste. All 3 might be having separate HSN codes. So under this HSN summary, you have to mention all the 3 HSN code. You have to mention the quantity, you have to mention the value, and you have to mention the tax rates and the tax values. Now, what can happen if I don't enter my HSN wise summary? And what can happen if I enter wrong HSN summary? Sir, if suppose I enter a wrong HSN summary, what happens? We generate e-way bills for our outward supplies, wherein HSN code is mentioned. So that is saved in the e-way bill portal. Suppose the HSN number which we had reported in our e-way bill portal is 0101. Okay. Now, when that supply is reported in GSTR 1, if I mention the HSN code as 0102, Both this data will go to the GST portal. This will go to the dashboard of the tax officer, of your jurisdictional officer. Then the conflict will arise. The officer might call your return for scrutiny. There might be notices, because the officer will definitely be confused, because in one return we are submitting HSN code as 0101, and in the other one we are submitting as 0102. So it is always advisable that we should take utmost care in reporting our HSN-wise summary, because any summary, any differences in your HSN-wise summary might call for departmental proceedings. And there is one problem in HSN-wise summary, is that unlike the other fields, HSN-wise summary cannot even be amended. You cannot amend the HSN-wise summary once you have filed it. So we should take utmost care in preparing our HSN-wise summary. Now you will say, sir, what to do if I commit a mistake in filing my HSN-wise summary? In case you have already committed a mistake and this mistake is significant, I'll advise you to intimate this matter to your jurisdictional AO with your return of income and intimating him the correct HSN summary of that month return. At least that will keep your intent clear before the tax man. Yes. How do we file a return GSTR 1? We have already discussed. We have digital signature. Digital signature can be used in each and every case. And we have EVC. That means OTP based verification system is also there. It will go to the OTP will go to the email ID of the registered person, and that will validate the return. What are the communications received after successful filing of Form GSTR 1? ARN number will be generated, and SMS will also be sent, and email will also be sent in the mobile number and email ID of the registered person, primary authorized signatory. So what precautions which we need to take while applying our digital signature certificate? Portal accepts PAN-based DSC only. DSC must not be expired. It's very clear. DSC must be registered on the DSC portal. We have to register the digital signature in our GST portal. EM signer has to be updated, and the DSC has to be connected with the computer. Will a taxpayer receive notice if he does not file GSTR 1 by due date? Yes, he may always receive. Plus, if your GSTR 1 and 3B for the earlier month is not filed, you cannot file your current month return. Unlike the earlier period when we were allowed to file all the GSTR 1s at one go, we can file 5-6 months GSTR 1 at one go in earlier one year back. However, later an amendment was made and the government said that no, now you have to complete your 1 month filing and then only you can go to the next month. So both GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B has to be filed, and then only you can proceed to your next month for filing the return of income. Now, I'll give you one example. Suppose I report my outward supplies as 1 lakh and tax to be 6,000. That means your outward supply taxable value is 1 lakh, CGST 6,000 and SGST 6,000. Now this 1 lakh and 6,000 gets auto-populated in your GSTR 3B table 3.1. Upon verification, that is while filing your GSTR 3B, you saw that no, this figure is wrong. And your actual taxable value was 50,000 and 1,500. What should you do in this case? You have to pay extra tax. Is it correct that you should pay extra tax? See, this is a very complicated situation. However, if you have wrongly mentioned an invoice number, invoice detail in your GSTR 1, suppose you have wrongly feeded the taxable value and tax details in your in some of your invoices, and you are pretty sure about your calculations, you can manually edit the table 3.1 of the GSTR 3B, and you can file your GSTR 3B. The system will accept it. However, the table 3.1 will become red, and a red flag report will be automatically generated, and it will be sent to your jurisdictional AO. And subsequently, in the next month itself, you have to amend your GSTR 1, wherein the invoices have to be corrected. But again, these things are not advisable, and it's better we file correct GSTR 1, because these types of differences and these types of miscalculations might cause unnecessary harassment to the taxpayer and the professionals. So in case there is an unavoidable situation, we have to do this, but it's always better again to intimate your jurisdictional AO that, sir, we have done this mistake, we have committed this mistake. These are the facts of my case, of my particular case. These are the invoices. These invoices have been wrongly reported in GSTR 1, and we shall correct the same, amend the same in my next month GSTR 1. So at least you will be saved from any further queries by the department. Does a taxpayer need to check the validity of the registration of the recipients? So this is a very pertinent thing, because earlier this was allowed, but since last 1.5 years, suppose you have sold goods to Mr. B. Mr. B is a registered person, but his GST number got cancelled. His GST number got cancelled at the time when you sold him the goods, or subsequent to your sales. Now, what can you do? Because when you file your GSTR 1, you have no other option, but you have to, the system will show an error that this person, the GST number has been cancelled. So you will not be able to show that particular sale, that particular invoice in your GSTR 1, because the system will not accept it. So the only point, the recourse with you is to show it under your B2C supplies for the particular month. You have to check whether at that point of time when you made the supply, that means suppose you made the supply on 15th of April. If on 15th of April the registration was valid, that means it got cancelled only on 17th or 18th. So the supplies which you made on 15th is valid, and he is liable, he is eligible for ITC benefit. So in the subsequent month, if his registration gets validated, you can always amend your GST return. You can reduce the amount from your B2C supply, and you can add a B2B supply in your B2B table. So there is no other way out for these types of details, for these types of issues. How many decimal digits to different values need to be declared? 2 decimal places. A taxpayer cannot file Form GSTR 1 before the Fernilji, do we have any queries?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. A taxpayer cannot file Form GSTR 1 before the end of the current tax period. Is there any exception to this rule? So it can be filed in case of some taxpayers, that is casual taxpayers after the closure of his business, and who has applied for registration of cancellation. Only these two can file. Others can file only after the period is end. That means after the 30th or 31st of every month. How can I delete or modify the invoices which have been earlier successfully uploaded? Those things will be dealt with by Shubhamji. How can I file nil GSTR 1? So it is very simple. With filing nil GSTR 1 doesn't need any introduction. Auto population of e-invoice details in Form GSTR 1. As we have already discussed, that whatever e-invoices we generate, suppose we are generating e-invoices, we are covered under the e-invoicing provisions, and we are liable to generate e-invoices. We are regularly generating our e-invoices through our e-invoicing portal. Now from that e-invoicing portal, each and every invoice is getting auto-populated in your GSTR1. So these are the tables which are getting auto-populated from your GSTR1. That is B2B invoices, export invoices, credit debit notes for registered and for unregistered. For unregistered, credit notes are not required. E-invoicing is not required. Okay, what will happen? Suppose
Shubhamji, sorry, Sanjayji, one means two queries are there that in case they have filed nil return, but if the GSTR1 is not being generated, then what shall be done?
I didn't get. I didn't get.
Yeah, if they have, if there is a nil return, but GSTR1 is not being generated, then what shall be done?
I think this problem should not be there now, but if still this problem is there, I think a ticket can be raised because this is more of a technical problem.
Okay, fine. Okay. I'll raise it again.
This is more of a technical problem. So,
right, so the best is like to raise the ticket, right?
Sir? Shubhamji, is it okay? I think it is more of a technical problem.
Yeah. Best course is to raise a ticket on this. Usually, we are not facing any problems with filing nil GSTR1.
Yes, nowadays, anyways, problems are very less in generating.
Okay.
Yes, Vanilji?
Any other? This was one query.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, one problem might arise. Suppose we have generated one e-invoicing through our e-invoice through our e-invoicing portal. Now that invoice could not be cancelled in your GSTR1, in your e-invoicing portal, that because e-invoicing portal allows cancellation only within 24 hours. Now you could not cancel it. Now that gets auto-populated in your GSTR1. What to do? Because this is a very big problem which is being faced by business nowadays, and many issues might arise because of this one. So one extra invoice is being shown in your GSTR1, and so your outward supply as per GSTR1 is more than your outward supply as per your books. If it is a small amount, you can always pay that tax, and in the subsequent months you can create a credit note or you can take recourse. But if the amount is big, it's not avoidable. See, GSTR1 allows deletion of e-invoicing, the auto-populated data from e-invoicing portal. It is allowing, but the red flag will be generated, and this jurisdictional officer will be intimated of the same. So in case it is unavoidable and a mistake has occurred and the tax implication is high and you cannot postpone it for the next month, I think you can delete it, but it's again better to invoice your jurisdictional officer. However, if the tax amount is small, you can pay the tax, and in the subsequent month you can create a credit note for the same. I think there is no other option for these types of errors because the e-invoicing portal doesn't allow cancellation after 24 hours. So either you can generate, you can you can delete the invoice from the GSTR1, or you can generate a GSTR3B. But in that case, you have to enter that invoice in your GSTR, in your books also, because there should ideally be no difference between your books and your GSTR1. So these two mechanisms are followed by various business in case of differences. However, we are normally not following the second one. We are normally trying that in case of differences, the invoice gets cancelled within 24 hours. However, if it is not cancelled within 24 hours, we shall delete that invoice and we shall intimate the jurisdictional AO about the difference. I think I am out of time, and the remaining details can be taken care of Shubhamji. So in case of any queries, we can take it, Fanilji.
Yes, Ayushi, mainly the queries are almost being solved. One query is like, please explain about e-invoice.
E-invoicing. Okay.
Yeah.
Some specified category of taxpayers have been mandated by the law to generate e-invoice. Now, what is e-invoice? E-invoice is the same invoice which you generate through your Tally software or through your other invoicing softwares. The only difference being that in case of e-invoicing, you have to intimate your invoice to the e-invoicing portal. You have to feed the details of your invoice in the e-invoicing portal. An IRN number is generated a unique IRN number is generated for the invoice, and that IRN number and the QR code has to be printed in your invoice. So the government is intimated of your invoice generation immediately on its generation. For the time being, from 1st April 2022, the limit for e-invoicing is 20 crores. That means in case a registered taxable person is having a turnover in any of the financial years since the inception of GST law exceeding 20 crores, so in that case, e-invoicing has to be done by that registered person. However, there are some exceptions where e-invoicing need not be generated. Suppose in case of B2C supplies, that means if a supply is made by a registered person to an unregistered person, in that case, you need not generate an e-invoice. In case of exports, we have to generate an e-invoice. In case of exempt supplies, there is no need of generating an e-invoice. So this is the basic understanding about the e-invoicing provisions. Though in details, we cannot go in this session.
Right, Ayushi. Again, students wants to understand debit note and credit note point. And one more thing, can we issue the credit note in the same month?
Yes, why not? Why not? Today, suppose today I sold some goods. Mr. A sold goods to Mr. B. In the next few days, the goods are returned back. So credit note can be issued. And as regards debit note and credit note, I'll again give one example. Suppose I sell goods worth rupees 1 lakh to Mr. B. I come to know that the goods should have been valued 1,10,000. That means the value is increasing. I have to charge more from the customer. So when we charge more, what we do? We debit the customer. We debit the customer. So we issue a debit note intimating that we are debiting your account by rupees 10,000 and the applicable taxes shall be 1,200 in this case. So the total debit amount in your account is 11,200. However, the debit note has to be specifically linked with the invoice. The invoice number should be mentioned there, ideally. Now, reverse is the credit note. In case of sales return, I made sales to someone, however, he returned it to me. So I'll issue him a credit note for that. If my value is reduced, suppose 1 lakh value, it should have been 90,000, or I have to issue him a discount. So I'll issue him a credit note because I will be crediting his account. So I'll issue him a credit note. However, again, today's session is for sales, for outward supplies, and debit notes and credit notes, whatever we are referring, are only with reference to sales transactions. Debit and credit notes pertaining to purchase transactions will not be covered in GSTR 1. This is a common query of all, and many mistakes are getting committed in this provision. Fernilji.
Yes, sir. One more query, and the last one in this is, please explain the provision regarding the advance amount received against sales order, how it is to be treated in GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B, and their tax liability as well as their reversal.
In case of advances received against sales, there is no GST liability. So there will be no treatment. In case of real estate transactions, we have. In case of service transactions, if advances are received, then we have to pay. However, in case of sales transactions, there is no GST implication as such.
Okay.
So it will not be reported in GST.
Yeah. One more is, suppose in one invoice, there is nil rated items and taxable items.
Yes.
And wrongly in GSTR 1 B2B, we enter the nil rated amount in 0%. How we can amend it later on? Means, is that amendment possible?
Sir, actually, as per the GST law, if you make B2B supplies, then exempt item and taxable items cannot be in one invoice. Only in case of B2C supplies, this is allowed. So in case you are making B2B supplies and you are entering exempt item and taxable item in one invoice, it is wrong. So in case you have already generated such an invoice, then there is no other option but you have to put it under 0%.
Okay, sir. So basically, these were the queries related to first session. So thank you, CA Dr. Ayush Sharafji, for sparing your valuable time on this Sunday morning and taking the students through the basic introductory part, like on the basic technicalities, which student wanted to understand from a theoretical perspective. Now, students, when I saw the doubts which were being asked by you, I specifically didn't took certain doubts because that is technical, which are to be addressed by our next learned speaker, CA Shubham Khaitanji. So that doubts, I kept it for him. Now, if those doubts will not be addressed in the session, then I'll pose them to Shubham Khaitanji and sure all the doubts will be taken care. Now I take immense pleasure to introduce the another speaker, Shubham Khaitanji, whom I also had a privilege to listen many times in Ahmedabad at various conferences. He is like one of the speaker whom you always have the privilege to listen to. When you students, when you vouch his particular profile, it's like he has done everything at a young age. Like he passed his chartered accountancy final examination at the age of 21 years with 74% marks in IDT. He passed his CS examination at the age of 20. He passed all 3 levels of Chartered Financial Analyst examination from USA with the highest category in almost all the subjects. He holds ISA again and has cleared cleared LLB 3 years course from West Bengal. Apart from this very inspirational educational journey, he is currently a partner of a tax and regulatory division of S. Khaitan and Associates, a reputed middle-sized CA firm in Kolkata since last 30 years. He is a co-chairman of Indirect Tax Committee and an executive committee member of Association of Corporate Advisors and Executives, a member of GST and IDT Committee of ICAI, a member of State Council Economic Affairs and Taxation Committee and various other committees of Confederation of Indian Industry. He is a member of National Council of Indirect Tax for SOCHM. He is a co-chairman of Indirect Tax Committee of BBD Bag Professional Study Circle. And friends, the list is going on. Apart from that, he has authored also the book that is a practical guide of GST on textile industry, published by Bloomsbury Publication. Again, he has been a regular contributor as speaker at various forums, regularly contributing to the articles to our professional forums. With this brief introduction, again, I take pleasure to welcome CA Shubham Khaitanji for this particular discussion. And students, now Shubham sir will take us through the GSTR 1 technically. So afterwards, still again, your doubt is unsolved, you can raise the same. Over to CA Shubham Khaitanji.
Thank you so much, CA Fenil Shah sir. for giving this introduction of mine. I'm not sure how far I'll be able to justify, but I'll try to live up to the expectations. And thank you so much to the Board of Studies for giving me this opportunity, especially to our Chairman of Board of Studies, CA Sushil Goyal sir, who has been a mentor for me. And also, I think we had a very wonderful session in the first half where Ayush sir has taken a lot of theoretical aspects into account while discussing GSTR1. So that makes my job a little easier so that I can continue in the same progression. I'll try to make it as practical as possible, this topic. Obviously, if there are any conceptual related aspects which I think may be related to be emphasized on, that I'll be doing. So I'll just share my screen for the benefit of the participants. Okay. I'm going through Tally data one by one. Reason being, Tally is one of those softwares where most of the GSTR1 data is prepared nowadays. I mean, there may be a few clients who are not having this data, but majority of them have their data in Tally, and perhaps this data would be helping you in understanding as to how do we structure that data in for GSTR1 purposes practically, as well as thereafter we'll understand if we have this data, thereafter what is the process of uploading this data on the GST portal and making sure that the return is filed, right? So as we know, there are two types of usually taxpayers. One taxpayer is filer of monthly return. Another taxpayer who are having turnover of less than 5 crores, they may opt to file their returns on a quarterly basis. For a time being, I am discussing those taxpayers who are filing their returns on a monthly basis, right? So if you go to the gateway of Tally for any company which is enabled in Tally for GST return filing purposes, you can go to display reports D. Thereafter, you can see statutory reports. Thereafter, you can see GST related reports. And thereafter, you can find different types of forms, different type of features which comes in within GST reports. We look at GSTR1 here. So if you look at GSTR1, you will see this kind of window, right? Here you would be able to see all the kinds of fields which we are supposed to enter in GSTR1. All the fields are here, and within this, there are two bifurcations. If you look at this, there are 41 entries that we have made during this month of April. So April 22 to 30th April 22, we have made 41 entries in Tally for this particular invoice, for this particular month. Now, out of this 40 returns, 40 invoices are to be entered in this month's return, right? 40 invoices. And one invoice may be that invoice which is not relevant for the purpose of GST return, right? So maybe there are some invoices which are not relevant for the purpose of GST returns for GSTR1 that would be appearing in not relevant in this return. So ideally, the process that we should be following is to make sure that the GST return is accurate. We need to look at not relevant in this return, whatever entries are there. If any entry is flowing in that by mistake, but it is relevant to the return, we should rectify that, right? Next, if there are any transactions which according to the Tally data needs correction, that also we need to do. Maybe the data is not flowing correctly in the GST reports, that will be done separately. I'm not getting into the intricacies of how to correct data and all those things, because again, that will involve a discussion only on Tally. So our focus is to make sure that we focus on GSTR1 today, right? So as Ayush ji was mentioning, there are different kinds of vouchers which are entered in, or rather different kinds of invoices which can be bucketed into different heads in as per GSTR1. First kind of invoice is B2B. That means I'm a registered person, you are a registered person, I am supplying goods to you. If you are having a GST number, in that case, it would be considered as a B2B invoice, right? Now, if we enter into this B2B invoices, we will see the data party-wise. That means we have supplied goods to these many parties or supplied services to these many parties, what we are seeing in front of us. And what is their GSTIN? I hope you know what is GSTN. GSTN is the unique number which every registered person has, which is given by the GST department, which is the identification number for the purpose of that particular entity, right? So this is the GSTN number. Now, in the GSTN number, we will see that, for example, for SS Stationery, the taxable amount of goods that we have supplied to them is 125,712. And IGST charged on that is 15085, right? So this is the total value of supplies that we have made to this person during this month. For example, for Sri Sham Writing, we have made 2 supplies, which is aggregating to 55,000 rupees. CGST, SGST is separately mentioned here, and the invoice amount is also mentioned here, right? Now, let us say we want to view this voucher wise. Then there's an option of F5 voucher wise. We'll see all the entries, all the sales entries that we have made to registered persons during the month. It contains all the particulars: date on which we have made the supply, particulars, that is the party name, GSTN, invoice number of the party to whom we are making the supply, taxable amount, IGST, CGST, SGST, right? So taxable value, what is the meaning of taxable value? So taxable value is the base value on which GST is to be charged. So if I'm making a supply of 1 lakh rupees plus GST, 1 lakh rupees is the base value plus GST, let's say 18,000 rupees is the GST. Invoice amount usually would be 1 lakh rupees taxable value plus 18,000 rupees GST. Total invoice amount will be 1,18,000, right? So this is how it would be structured, right? So all the entries are to be made from 1st April to 30th April within this particular bucket if I am making supplies to a registered supplier. Please note that all these invoices will be uploaded on the GST portal on an invoice level basis. What is invoice level? That means every invoice needs to be specified separately in a separate line item on the GST portal. We cannot aggregate all the invoices and upload it. We cannot aggregate the value. So example, the total value is 15,60,000. We cannot show on the GST portal simply 15,60,000 here. We'll have to show each and every invoice separately on the GST portal, right? So all these invoices would be separately coming on the GST portal for B2B invoices, right? Second is B2C large invoices. What is B2C large and what is B2C small? B2C large invoices have 2 conditions associated with it. First, amount should be more than 2,50,000. Second, it should be an interstate supply. So 2 conditions. Interstate, that means I am supplying outside my state. I am in West Bengal, I am supplying in Delhi. That is interstate supply, right? And the value, which is the taxable value of the supply I have made in one invoice, per invoice, the value is more than 2,50,000 rupees. If that be the case, it would come under B2C large invoices. What if the invoice value is less than 2,50,000? It would come in B2C small invoices. What if the supply is within the state, same state, from West Bengal to West Bengal to unregistered party? It would be again B2C small invoices, right? So B2C large and B2C small would have to be bifurcated. I would have to upload every invoice for B2C large invoices. That means invoice level details needs to be uploaded for B2C large invoices. Every single invoice needs to be uploaded in case of B2C large invoices. What about B2C small invoices? In case of B2C small invoices, I don't have to upload every invoice individually. There may be small shops which may be selling multiple items, and they are selling multiple items, let's say, together in one invoice. It is not required for me that I would upload every single invoice. If let's say I am selling goods worth rupees 5,000 to unregistered party regularly, Now, in those cases, I don't need to upload each and every invoice in the GST portal. What do I need to do? I need to ensure that I am filing the details on a state-wise and rate-wise. Two things are important. State-wise means for every state, to each and every state, how much supplies have I made? In Odisha, what is the value of supplies that I have made? In West Bengal, what is the value of supplies that I have made? Right? Thereafter, in Odisha, I would have to specify the rate of tax. That means if I'm making supplies of 12% in Odisha as well as 18% in Odisha, I would enter two separate line items of 12% and 18%. So there will be two specific line items. So Odisha will have two separate line items of one of 12%, one of 18%. And West Bengal, if there is a separate state in which I'm making a supply, again a separate line item of 18%. So either it would be based on the state that I would have to bifurcate into two different line items, or it would be based on the rate. Maybe 12%, 18%, 28%, I would have to bifurcate based on that, right? Thereafter, I come to credit note or debit note. As Ayush ji was mentioning, in which cases do we need to issue a credit note or debit note? I have an invoice of 1 lakh rupees. I want to increase the value by issuing a debit note of 10,000 rupees. Thereafter, I would issue a debit note. If I want to reduce my value of original supply from 1 lakh to 90,000, I would issue a credit note. Now, please remember, credit note issued to a registered person, credit note issued to an unregistered person would have to be bifurcated separately, right? For credit note issued to a registered person, I would have to specify each and every line item separately, right? So whatever invoices, the way I had issued the invoices, because in every invoice, I had to issue a separate line item, which is the date, particulars, invoice number, GST and taxable value, GST, everything. In case of credit note and debit note, again, it would be having a separate line item, wherein I would be specifying the date, particulars, GSTIN. Here, I would be specifying the voucher as credit note number. Mind you, original invoice number against this credit note is not required to be uploaded as of now. That means if I'm, let's say, issuing a credit note of 10,000 against the original supply which I had made of 1 lakh rupees. So original invoice was for 1 lakh. Now I have issued a credit note of 10,000 rupees. I don't need to specify the original invoice number in my GST return as of now. I only need to provide the credit note number, right? So taxable amount, IGST, CGST, SGST, depending on the kind of credit note I would be issuing, I would be providing the values, right? So this is all on an invoice level basis. Why? Or line wise. So for every credit note number, I would have to have a separate line item that I would have to upload. In case of unregistered credit note, I can specify the total value. I don't need to upload line wise details, right? So it would be total credit note values that I can upload. Similarly, similar to B2C. Just the way in B2C, I was uploading total values, I can upload here also in credit note unregistered total values. Now we come to export invoices. Mind you, in case of export invoices, what do we need to do? In case of export invoices, we need to bifurcate between export of goods and export of services, right? What is export of goods? Export of goods is where I am physically taking the goods out of India. Any goods which are being taken out of India would be considered as export of goods. Please remember, when the goods are taken out of India, there is a shipping bill which is filed. What is shipping bill? At the time of export, the person who is taking the goods out of India has to inform the customs authorities, mind you. They have to inform the customs authorities that we are taking the goods out of India. They have to give the shipping bill number and the shipping bill date. The shipping bill number and shipping bill date has to be given whenever the goods are being exported out of India, right? So shipping bill number and shipping bill date are very important, because shipping bill number and shipping bill date helps us in getting refund. Mind you, refund of GST when the goods are exported. Whenever the goods are exported out of India, we get a refund. To help in getting this refund, the shipping bill number and shipping bill date is very important. This has to be entered accurately. So we cannot leave out shipping bill number and date in case of export of goods. Otherwise, the refund may not be given to us in case of export, right? In case of export of services, there is no concept of shipping bill number, shipping bill date. So we can only give the taxable value, and whenever there is an export out of India, only IGST can be charged. CGST, SGST cannot be charged. So what we need to do is we need to charge IGST. So taxable amount along with IGST needs to be charged in case of export of services. Even in case of export of goods, IGST would have to be charged. So please remember that in case of export of goods, we need to provide the shipping bill number, shipping bill date, and the port code. Port code means that code which is of the relevant port through which goods are exported. For example, INB CCU4 is Calcutta port. INB Delhi DEL1 is the Delhi port. So the port through which is the place through which the port through which airport or the shipping port through which goods are exported, I would have to provide that code so that they are able to tag that yes, these goods have actually been exported, right? For export of yeah.
Just to interrupt you, can we do something like this, that we keep doubts all at 12:20 or 12:30, like instead of asking in between, so that your flow is not disturbed?
No problem, no worries. I don't have any issues.
Okay.
Yeah, Fenelji, any issue with the discussion that we are having in terms of students' feedback, or they are fine?
No. As such, no issues. There are some technical queries they are asking, so I think so. Let's keep that later on, so that your flow is not disturbed. Right.
Absolutely. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Mind you, in case of exports, there are two kinds of exports: export with payment of tax, export without payment of tax. Export, in case of export with payment of tax, I would have to show the taxable amount as well as IGST. I would have to show that separately, right? I would have to pay the IGST by showing this taxable amount, by showing the tax amount. Export without payment of tax is the second option, where I don't show the IGST amount. So taxable amount would only be shown, but IGST would not be shown. So I can make export under two heads: with payment of tax or without payment of tax, right? So depending on the kind of option I have chosen, I would have to enter IGST value. If it is with payment of tax, I would enter IGST value. If it is without payment of tax, I would not enter the IGST value. It would only be the taxable value that I would enter. For example, for these last two cases, these are export without payment of tax. That's why IGST is not mentioned. These two are export with payment of tax, so IGST has been mentioned, right? Next, advances. Mind you, in case of advances received, we have to show the advances received separately. For example, in West Bengal, aggregate value of advances received is 55,000 rupees. So in the month of April, from all my parties, I have received an advance of 55,000 rupees. On that, GST is 18%. I would have to show taxable total advance received from every state and what is the rate of tax on that. So it would be state-wise as well as rate-wise. And the tax amount would also appear there, right? So state, rate, and tax all would be appearing here, right? Please remember, not every advance is required to be reported here. Advances may be for goods or it may be for services. We will only report those advances which are for services. There is no tax if advance is received in case of goods. So it is only advance received in case of services that I would be reporting. So total advances received from in the month of April in the state of West Bengal, I have reported here as 55,000. Let us say in the next month, I am adjusting this advance. Why am I adjusting this advance? Next month, let us say I issue an invoice against it. What is the meaning of advance? Today I have received an advance. I may be supplying the services in the next month. So today it is sitting in the advance. Next month, an invoice might be issued against it when I have already supplied the services. So I would have to naturally reduce my advance, which is sitting there. So let us say 55,000 is the advance. Next month, against this, I have issued an invoice of 1 lakh rupees. So I would have to reduce the 55,000 now. Sorry. Since 1 lakh is coming in invoice, 55,000 would be adjusted as advance. So adjustment of advance would be 55,000, right? So 55,000 advance received in this month, 55,000 will be advance adjusted in the next month, right? Now we come to nil rated invoices. In case of nil rated invoices, this means that this head would contain 3 kinds of details. Nil rated supply, exempt supply, and non-GST supply. You can see 3 different columns here. Nil rated supply, exempt supply, and non-GST supply, right? Depending on the kind of supply, I am not getting into what is non-GST, what is nil rated, what is exempted. I'm not getting into that for the time being. Depending on the kind of supply that we are having, right? Whether the tax rate is nil on it, or it has been exempted through notification, or it is non-taxable supply like alcoholic liquor or petroleum products, I would bifurcate my supply between these 3 heads, right? Thereafter, after bifurcation, I need to provide these details on the basis of these 4 classifications. You can see the 4 classifications on the left-hand side. Whether the supply is interstate, intrastate, I would have to bifurcate based on that. So whether I am making the supplies to a different state or within the same state. If it is different state, it would be interstate. If it is the same state, it would be intrastate. Also, I would have to bifurcate between registered person and unregistered person. If the supply is made to a registered person and it is an exempt supply, I would show it separately. Any supply made to an unregistered person would be shown separately, right? So these are the primary details. Now there are 2 very important tables that we need to remember. The 2 tables are HSN summary and document summary. What is the meaning of HSN summary? So this is how the HSN summary would look like. The HSN summary would be providing the details of every type of product or service that I have supplied. What is HSN code, first of all? Now, let us say I am having a mobile phone. I'm selling mobile phone as well as I'm selling, let's say, a pen. Now, to identify which kind of item am I selling, the government has given a code. This is which is followed all over the world. Unique codes have been given to different kinds of items. So that based on that code, the government can identify which type of item am I selling. For example, ballpoint pen has a code of 96081019, right? Watercolor pens is having a code of 9608200, right? Wax crayons will have a separate code, 9609100. So these are all separate codes which are mentioned here based on the nature of product. For example, for a PP bag, polypropylene bag, the code is 6305200. So I would have to provide the separate HSN code for the type, for each type of product. Thereafter, I would have to provide the description of the product as to what is that product. Thereafter, units. In which kind of unit am I selling it? Am I selling it in kgs? am I selling it in sets, or am I selling it in units, or I'm selling it as gross? All these I would have to specify. Thereafter, if I'm selling it, what is the quantity that I have sold? I have sold 18 lakh pens during this period, or I have sold 15 lakh pens during this period, right? So I would have to separately provide the values of each of those. Number of pens, total value, so which is taxable value plus IGST. Taxable value is the base value on which tax is to be charged plus the IGST element, right? So taxable value plus the IGST would be shown separately. Along with this, the rate of tax would also be mentioned, which may be 18%, 5%, 12%, 0%. Depending on the rate of tax, I would have to bifurcate these supplies, right? So tax rate 5, 12, 18, 28, depending on the rate of tax, I would have to provide the HSN code. The taxable amount as well as the IGST would be provided here. And the it may be IGST, CGST, SGST. I would have to provide the bifurcation each of these columns, right? So HSN summary is essentially a one-shop kind of window where the government gets the entire idea of what are the kinds of products or what are the kinds of services that I am providing, right? So they would get an idea from this window in one shot. What is document summary? Document summary contains the invoice number or the series. So example, I am selling goods. So I would have, let's say, issued invoice from series 001 to 033. So this is the entire series which I have issued. So ABC / 2223 / 001 to 033. So there are 33 invoices that I have issued during this period. So I would have to provide the details of all the 33 series. So what is the series which I have issued? Debit note as I have issued from 0 DNGST /S/01 to /02. Two debit notes I have issued. Or credit note I have issued from CN 2223 /001 to 004. 4 I have issued. If any invoice or credit note gets cancelled, it would come under the cancelled column. So let's say out of 33 invoice, 1 would have got cancelled. 1 would have come under cancelled and net issued would have been 33, right? Thereafter, finally, the receipt voucher. If I'm receiving an advance, I would be showing a receipt voucher here, right? So all these series of invoices I would have to show here. Once I have, let's say, completed this entire process of filling up data in my Tally or in my Excel, wherever I have completed, let's say I have completed this, let's say in Tally I have completed, there is an option of exporting e-return. In Tally, once I export this return, so if you look at export option in Tally, there is an option of exporting data. So it asks me where is the folder, what is the file name where I want to export this data. I would select the place where I need to do that, right? I would select the place where I need to do that, right? I would have to export the document summary and the HSN summary, right? And thereafter, I would click on send. So once I click on send and click on yes, the entire data which I want to make is being exported in Excel, right? So the entire data which I want now is getting generated in Excel so that I'm able to upload this data on the GST portal, right? So if you look at this is the format of the department. This is the Excel template which has been given by the GST department. This is the standard template in which I should be filling up my data. Once I fill up the data in this format, I can simply upload it on the GST portal. All my invoices, all my particulars would be uploaded. So from Tally, from one single click, I can upload all my invoices, right? So, for example, for B2B supplies, as I said, for each and every line items, I would have to export the data. So in this format, GSTIN, invoice number, invoice date, place of supply, reverse charge, in all these columns, rate of tax, taxable value, my data would be exported. What is the significance of place of supply? If I'm making supplies in the same state, from West Bengal to West Bengal, place of supply will be West Bengal. If I'm making a supply from West Bengal to Rajasthan, place of supply will be Rajasthan here. If I'm making supplies in Andhra, it would be Andhra. IGST would have to be charged if it is a different state. If it is the same state, CGST, SGST has to be charged. So all my invoices of B2B are now showing in front of us. Thereafter, B2CL invoices. B2CL invoice would also get uploaded. There is only one invoice of B2CL, but that also invoice number, invoice date, place of supply, everything has to be specified here, right? B2CS. So what is the meaning of B2CS? B2C, small supplies. So as I said, I don't have to give each and every line item separately for B2C small invoices. All I need to do is total supplies made to a state, total rate of tax in that state, and the taxable value I would have to specify. Place of supply, rate of tax, and taxable value. I would specify all these three. Thereafter, I would select the state and the rate of tax. B2CS would be filled up. Credit note, again, has been exported in a similar way from the tally data. So similarly, credit note, unregistered, credit note, registered. Since I've already discussed all of this, I'm not discussing this again, the meaning of all these, but the data is exported in the format that we want. For example, for export, we want the shipping bill number, date, all these we want. So we'd have to select that. As I said, for export, there are two options: export with payment of tax, without payment of tax. W payment means with payment of tax. WO pay means without payment of tax. So advances received would be coming here. Place of supply and advances received would be coming here. Rate of tax and the total advances received would be coming here. HSN code, I would have to provide the HS, as I said, whatever HSN code was entered in tally, that has also been exported here. HSN code, what is the description, UQC, quantity, value, everything what we had entered in tally is now exported. Finally, the document summary, invoices, credit note, a receipt voucher, all of these have been now exported, right? So all of this have now been exported. What is the next step that I should be adopting once this data has been exported? Now, this is the most common way of filling GSTR1, which is the offline tool. I mean, there is an online option also, which I'm not discussing because that is not frequent and that is easy, but people hardly adopt it. So most of the people are following the offline tool basis of uploading the return. What is the step for uploading the return offline? First, I would be using the offline tool and downloading the returns offline tool. I would be going on the GST portal. I would click on downloads. I would click on offline tool and I would click on returns offline tool. My data would be downloaded. Then I would click on download, right? I would click on download data. So they will ask me that you want to proceed. I will select yes. Thereafter that offline tool would be installed. Now, once this offline tool is installed, I will see this kind of window in front of us. Once I see this window, I would have to click on upload new invoice, the first box that we are seeing. Upload new invoice for return, right? Thereafter, they will ask me GSTR1, GSTN of supplier also they will ask me. What is the GSTN of supplier? Financial year, they will ask me. For which financial year and for which month do I need to file my return? So I would select all of this and I would select that I'm not a quarterly return filer, I'm a monthly return filer. Thereafter, I would proceed after selecting all this data. Thereafter, I would see that my this kind of screen is coming where I am supposed to enter the invoice number level details in, for each and every section. So you can see all the sections that we had seen in tally, B2B, B2C, credit note, debit note, exports, all these HSN summary, all these would be coming as different sections. So let's say I want to enter data into B2B invoices. I select B2B invoices. one option of entering data is to manually enter all the B2B invoices within this field. All these fields we'll enter manually. This is one option, that we'll enter all these fields manually. We keep on adding the data, right? Then we'll select the rate of tax. We'll select the GSTN invoice number, invoice type, and thereafter we'll select the rate of tax and save the data. Second option, which is the best option and the most common option, is to import the entire Excel workbook. So if you look at the workbook that we had created here, this is the workbook, Excel workbook that we have created, right? So this Excel workbook had come from Tally. Another option is to manually fill up this Excel workbook also. That is also optional. Option is there. It does not mean that we have to export from Tally. So once we have this Excel workbook, we will select the option of import Excel workbook. Thereafter, all the details which are there in the Excel workbook would be automatically, this is the format which I've already shown you of the Excel workbook. All this format we have seen already in the Excel workbook. Once we click on import files and click on import Excel, all the Excel workbooks would be imported together. So this Excel workbook, let's say we are saving this Excel workbook here in the name of the company GSTR1. We will import this Excel workbook. They will ask us whether you want to import. We'll select yes. All the import data, all the Excel data would be imported here. Everything would be imported in this workbook. Now in the offline tool, in the returns offline tool, which we had downloaded, in which we have imported the Excel tool, we'll see all the invoices. Now let us say after importing, we find that there is some change that is required. We have made any mistake, we want to delete the data, we want to change the data. You can see this action on the right hand side, which is marked in red. So we can click on any of these invoices and we can edit this invoice if it has not been imported correctly from Excel, right? Third option of importing data is through the individual files. Right now, I had said that we can export one single Excel workbook in one shot. All the fields would be imported. Another option is to import each and every Excel file, each and every Excel worksheet separately. B2B would be imported separately. B2C would be imported separately. All these will be importing separately, right? So this we can do. All these data would be imported separately. So this is called a CSV file. CSV file is comma separated value file, which is very similar to your Excel. So you have to enter the data in that file, and that file can be imported here. So this is, for example, we click on import files, we go to B2B invoices, we click on import CSV. So these are all separate files. If you look at it, B2B is a separate file, B2C is a separate files, all these are separate files. We'll import all of these separately. Thereafter, we can view the summary of these in one shot. Once we import B2B, B2C, everything we'll see in one shot in front of us. Once we have done the entire thing, then there is an option of generate file. So we'll select on generate files once we have imported all the Excel data into the offline tool. Once we click on generate file, it shows an option of save that file. So once we click on save file, that JSON file will be saved, right? It is called as a JSON file, JSON. JSON file is the file format. For example, XLS, DOC, XLS is for Excel, DOC is for document, PPT is for PowerPoint. Similarly, JSON file is a separate file format where the data would be saved after getting exported from the offline. Thereafter, we go to the GST portal, we click on returns, we click on returns dashboard. Thereafter, we have to select the period for which we are filing the return. Thereafter, we have to choose the data that we are wanting to upload, the JSON file. Once we click on choose file, it will ask us whether you want to import the file. So we'll have to select that JSON file which was generated from the offline tool. that JSON file generated from the offline tool will be uploaded. So here the message is coming, your JSON file has been uploaded successfully. Thereafter, you can go on the GST portal and you can, let us say, one option is your data has been uploaded successfully. Second option, let us say there is any error in the data, right? So let's say it may take 10-15 minutes. After that, you see that the data is processed. If it shows status as processed, that means my data has been uploaded successfully. If it shows as processed with error, that means all my data has not been uploaded successfully. There was some mistake. So I would have to generate the error report. Once I generate the error report, I would download the error report. I can open that error report in my offline tool. I can open that error report in my offline tool. It will show the error which was made by me. For example, reverse charge flag cannot be Y for type DE. This is like an error which is there. I'm not getting into the complications of the error because there can be different kinds of errors. So after you correct the error, you need to generate the JSON file once again. Thereafter, you can go to returns dashboard. You can click on prepare offline. You can thereafter, what you can do is you can download the JSON file which has been uploaded. If you want to see what was uploaded on the portal, you want to see that again in one single shot, you can download the JSON file. Offline tool can be used for uploading JSON file on the portal. Thereafter, you want to see what has been uploaded, so you download that JSON file and open in the offline tool. Thereafter, you can open the offline tool. Thereafter, you can see what is the return which has been uploaded on the GST portal in the offline tool. You can see that also. Even if you have, let's say, not uploaded the data through that offline tool, still you can still see that data, what is there on the GST portal in the offline tool, right? So offline tool data you can view on the GST portal data you can view on the offline tool, right? All this data, you after getting downloaded, you would see this data, you would see the summary, you can make the changes if you want to make any changes, and you can upload it on the GST portal. Offline tool, you again export the JSON file after correcting the errors. Again, you upload the JSON file on the GST portal. All the invoices would be generated, right? Once you upload this data, you would be able to see the option of submit data, right? You would have to, once you upload the data, you would see generate GSTR1 summary. You would generate that summary, and thereafter you would see the option of submit data. Thereafter, you click on proceed, and after proceeding, the data would be submitted. Thereafter, the option would be coming for file return. So I will click on file return. There are two options of filing return. One is through DSC, the other is through EVC. DSC means your digital signature. There is a separate token which comes in a digital signature through which is password protected. You have to enter the password with the digital signature, the return will be uploaded. Or second option is to file the return with the EVC, which is an OTP kind of thing. It goes to the authorized signatory. OTP, you enter that OTP, the return would be filed, right? So this is the entire process of filing data from the stage of making the data to the stage of filing the data, right? So, yeah.
Yes, Shubhamji.
Yeah, thank you so much to everyone for giving me a very patient hearing. Special thanks to Board of Studies for giving me this opportunity. If there are any questions, I would be happy to take them up.
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah. Is there any way to amend invoice second time in GSTR1?
As of now, there is no option. We can only amend it once. Yeah.
Okay. Are HSN-wise details and documents issued is mandatory field?
Yes, they are mandatory.
Mandatory.
HSN, I would just like to highlight one thing, which is slightly theoretical, which we need to know. that up to 5 crores of turnover, and in case of B2C supplies, that means my turnover was 5 crores up to 5 crores and I have made B2C supplies, HSN code is not mandatory. If it is up to 5 crores and if the supplies B2B supplies, then 4-digit HSN code is mandatory. More than 5 crores supplies, 6-digit HSN code is mandatory.
Okay. One question is from Kashmir. That is, we can pay GST under reverse charge mechanism. Can this tax be claimed like input tax credit?
Yes, absolutely. So once we pay on RCM, we need to ensure that the credit is not restricted or blocked under the GST law. If it is not blocked, we can freely claim the ITC.
Okay. Just one question is like, what if a registered dealer sells to composite dealer?
I think IUSG is also online. Perhaps there are some questions which are theoretical also, which IUSG can also perhaps take up. So question is with regard to supply to composition dealers. In case of supply to composition dealers, we can show those supplies under our GSTR1. So that would be coming under B2B supplies itself. That is not a problem. So it would be coming under B2B supplies. GSTN would be of a composite dealer. That's the only change.
Okay. Then one query is like, in case of export through Indian Post like EMS, which number we use to report in GSTR1 for bill of export?
So even in case of export through courier, from the courier agency like DHL or any reputed courier agency, they would always provide you CSV5, form CSV5. That contains the shipping bill number as well as port code, EGM number, everything. From that, you can report the data in GSTR1.
Even the same document, Indian Post, we export something through Indian Post? Yes,
we will always get the details from them. The port code, shipping bill number, everything would be coming in form CSV5.
Okay. How to tackle the mistake in e-invoice? An actual correct tax invoice to be entered in GSTR1 to avoid future conflicts.
So only option is if you have not been able to amend e-invoice, but you want to correct GSTR1, you should delete the e-invoice and upload the correct invoice and intimate to the department if possible.
Students want clarity with respect to monthly/quarterly return filing options, especially ITC claiming between monthly and quarterly. So I think this is more a theoretical question. Any one of the speakers can address it.
Okay. See, ITC claiming as of now, since it was not part of our discussion, I would not get into it for the time being because it would be difficult to clarify now.
True.
It's very simple. In case of GSTR1, I would be uploading the data on a monthly basis if I'm a monthly return filer. If I'm a quarterly return filer, I have two options. First, I upload the data on a quarterly basis at the end of every quarter. Second option is I would upload the invoice through Invoice Furnishing Facility, IFF. So on a monthly basis, I would be uploading the data through IFF. In that case, in GSTR1, which I'll be filing quarterly, I would not show that invoice again for GSTR1 purposes.
Okay. Was almost all the queries. Just a minute. And I'm just happy to share that we are having more than 1,400 participants online right now.
That's glad to hear. Yeah, very, very nice to hear that. Students interested in learning the practical aspects so much is something which is very glad to see.
Agrees, Shubhamji. Yes, Shubhamji, so all the questions are almost done up with. So again, on behalf of Board of Studies, Skills Enrichment Board, I would like to thank both the esteemed speakers for not only sparing their time, but deliberating the topics very much in depth and also addressing all the queries which are being raised. So thank you, friends, and all the students also for sparing their time right now in the morning to spare 3 hours in order to learn these technicalities. And friends, in case you have missed out, any of your friend has missed out with these sessions, this will be uploaded soon on the YouTube channel of Board of Studies also, so that you can take the benefit of the same. So thank you, Shubhamji, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the Board of Studies. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ayushi.
Thank
also.
you.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you to
sir,
all present here, Honorable Chairman C. Sushil Goelji, Student Skill Enrichment Board, respected Vice Chairman Sir Sridhar Mupalaji, and all the participants. It is such an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank you all dignitaries. On the behalf of Student Skill Enrichment Board, Board of Studies Operation, I extend a warm welcome to the people in gathering. I would like to express my gratitude to our eminent speakers, CA Dr. Ayush Sharafji and CA Shubham Khitanji of the webinar for their presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success. Thank you for your inspiring and encouraging us with your words on this special day. A special thanks to our board member, CA Fenil Rajendra Shahji, for providing the immense support to make this webinar successful. I must thank all the organizing team, volunteers for their hard working for the past few days for this webinar successful. I congratulate all the participants for the active participation. Thank you everyone once again for making the great success. Thank you so much.